Welcome back to Newsmaker Live, and we continue to thank you for staying with us on this very important program discussing now the behavior risk factor survey. And our first caller this evening asked about raw rice, and the medical experts we have in our studio this evening were saying that it depends on the portion, but from their understanding, their knowledge, there is no direct correlation between eating raw rice in whatever portion or proportion and renal failure. So I hope that answers your question. That is the information, but they also found it strange that people were eating raw rice. I must tell you that. So if you can use some water and cook it up, heat it up, then it might be a little better for you. Yes, and we will continue in basic risk factor survey. The behavior risk factor survey, sorry. And you're going into the 9 regions that you have on the island, because we know St. Lucia is separated or divided into 9 health regions. Obviously, most of your 5,424 samples will come from the north because of the size of that population. How cooperative do you expect the public to be, and also what do you hope to come out of it at the end?
Okay, basically we have undertaken and we will be undertaking a number of publicity stunts. So we will be engaging the community in, we will be having focus group discussions, etc. What we're expecting is, after we've given all this information and we've actually educated the public as to the importance of this survey, they in turn would actually see the importance of this survey, and they would participate and cooperate with the interviewers, providing them with the necessary information. And if that is done, at the end of the day, we can do the analysis, and the information that we have would be a true reflection of what is happening in the country in terms of the risk factors that we are actually focusing on, and we could actually use the information to actually come up with interventions to help decrease or to help minimize the various risks, and as a result decreasing the chronic non-communicable diseases that we have, and decreasing and like Ms. Joseph said, premature death, and decreasing productivity. And at the end of the day, it would actually help decrease the cost that we generate when it comes to providing health services to these persons with chronic non-communicable diseases.
Good evening, caller. Please go ahead with your contribution. Hello?
Hi. Hello?
Yes, hello. Please go ahead.
I'm just curious to find out the price of having dialysis treatment.
Oh, that was another dialysis question. Well, I am not too certain. We'll have to ask that question, but if you have to do it privately at a private institution, I think it's upwards of $500 per treatment. And from the information that we were receiving, you have that treatment 3 times a week. So we're looking at $1,500 plus a week for dialysis treatment. And that is at a private institution. Of course, at Victoria Hospital, since it's a state-owned institution, that service, the price or cost of that service is subsidized. So it will give you an idea as to how much it will cost you in money terms to take care of your kidneys if you have renal failure. Okay.
We also want to inform the public that they may see interviewers showing up at the doorsteps after working hours. It's true we said the interviewers will be healthcare workers, but many of them will be conducting the interviews, the survey, after working hours. So just expect somebody to walk up to your door at about 5, 6 o'clock, and even then we expect the public to cooperate. Let me butt in to say as well that there is nothing too much to be afraid of, because they will be having ID cards. They will be having identification cards. So you will know that that person is not a thief, but when she introduces herself and she shows you her ID card, that she's actually a participant or an interviewer in the behavior risk factor survey.
All right. We have our final call this evening. Please go ahead.
Hello, good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night, Mr. Reynolds. Very good program.
Thank you very much.
My question is on concerning diabetes. I think I understood that it's 100 to have a normal sugar. At what level will the sugar start damaging the organs of the body?
Is that a question? Well, we're dealing with the survey, so I'm not sure that you're in a position to answer that question. If one of you is, then we can answer that. Otherwise, we'll have to investigate and come back with a response to your question some other time.
But she has already said the normal value is 80 to 100. That's the normal. So anything above the normal, it's already telling you that something is wrong, and it speaks of danger. So as much as possible, we have to ensure that our blood levels or our normal blood value is from 80 to 100. Okay. Now
let's go back to our behavior risk factor survey, because we know that this is coming up in March 12th. That is Monday next week.
Yeah.
So we can expect to see interviewers coming to different households, and one person, if there's more than one adult, one person there being interviewed, one adult being interviewed. How long will the interviews last on average, and how can one prepare to be interviewed?
Okay. Basically, the interview is supposed to last between half an hour and 45 minutes at most. The interviewer comes to your house. Like Nurse Joseph said, we've issued ID cards. Now, the ID cards would basically have the interviewer's picture. It would also have the name of the ministry, and it would also have the interviewer's name. There's also supposed to be a signature from the permanent secretary of the ministry. So if the person comes to your house and they say they participate in the behavioral risk factor survey and they don't have this ID card, you are not supposed to give them any information. They must first present their ID card. The second thing is there are 2 consent forms. After you've consented to participate in the survey, there are 2 consent forms that are supposed to be signed by the participant. One of these consent forms is supposed to remain with the participant, and the other one is supposed to be given to the interviewer, which would be returned to the survey coordinator so we could verify. Another thing that is going to happen is there are cases where you would be asked to provide name, age of the persons in your household, and the names and the ages would be particularly to do the selection of the person in the household. So for the KISH method, which is going to be used to do the selection of the person to be interviewed in the household, we would require that information. We want to assure participants who are going to consent to participate in the survey that whatever information that they give us is going to be strictly confidential. When we do the analysis and we prepare the reports, at no point in time are we going to give out names, households, anything like that. All of that is going to be strictly confidential, and it would be required in some cases if we come to your household and the person who's chosen to be interviewed is not there. We would also want names and telephone numbers, etc. We would also be issuing, it's just like the census. If the interviewer visits your house and you are not there at the time, they would leave a note with a number, etc., so you can make contact with the interviewer and you can let them know at what time, etc. They can return to do the interview. When it comes to the biochemical measures, there are certain instructions. For example, the fasting and the interview, if you are chosen to participate in the 3rd step, which is the biochemical measures, you would be given certain instructions that you must follow in order to get the test done. So when you come to the health facility, you would be asked if you followed the instructions that you were given. If you did, then you can go ahead and have the test done. If not, then you would be given another appointment to come back. So we want them to ensure, if you are selected to take part in step 3, that you please follow the necessary instructions for the necessary measurements.
That's the Behavior Risk Factor Survey, and that will be coming up from March 12th. So if you are chosen to be a participant, please cooperate with the officials from the Ministry of Health for that very important survey, trying to reduce the incidence of morbidity, mortality, and adult disability. Thank you very much, Dr. Cherry, Gemma Cherry, and also Nurse Juliet Joseph for joining us on Newsmaker Live. Very informative, very timely information. And we want to thank you for being part of our program this evening, and always, we'll see you next week.